You may want to rethink your weekend plans. When you head to Macy's Backstage, you could win up to $25 off your next purchase. It starts with finding deals you can't believe at Macy's Backstage. Off-price, on-trend, arriving daily. Make any $30 purchase and get a scratch-off card. Everyone wins $5, $10, or $25 off their next Backstage purchase. Monday, December 3rd through Sunday, December 16th. Go on, win the weekend. Saturday and Sunday. Details on card. For locations, visit Macy'sBackstage.com.
Mark, why do you hurt me like this?
Hurt you? Hurt you like what, sir? What do you mean hurt
Mark,
you?
Why do you hurt me like this?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, look, I get that, I whine a lot and I complain and I'm not, as good a podcasting partner as I could be. So every now and then I deserve to be smacked around. I get that. I fundamentally understand this. But why do you have to hurt me like this?
I don't know. Maybe we're being punished by Skype because you're starting to sound like crap. Like, like I need to tune knobs or something to get you in. You're like fading in and out. Is there like a storm going on in Utah?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's anything weird with my internet connection.
Okay. Well, now that time you sounded better. As to why do I hurt you? Because I must. I am instructed by a greater power, a higher power, if you will, to hurt the ones I love.
This bodes well for your children.
Why do you got to bring them into this? Hey, man, I
assume you love them. My apologies if that's operating from a faulty position.
I took my daughter to go see the original. So I keep saying the original Superman, and then some asshole, usually one in my family, will jump up to correct me. It's not the original Superman movie. Those are the ones with George Martin or whoever the fuck played Superman.
It's George Reed.
Whatever. We all know.
Affleck played him in that stupid Hollywoodland movie.
See, now you sound like shit again.
Huh. Anything? It's not anything. That's not anything different. No, there's.
Yeah, I'm actually getting a message on my Skype that says poor network connection. I wonder if that's on my end or your end.
On your end or mine.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll try to get through this, folks.
All right, just look. This is technology imitating art. Because this is Damn Hollywood reviewing the most recent Robin Hood adaptation, and boy, does this suck. When I say to Mark, why do you hurt me like this? Like, I accept that Mark gets a bit of sadistic glee at making me see Transformers movies. I accept that Mark gets a bit of sadistic glee out of making me see anything in the DC cinematic universe. I mean, I get it. these are just profoundly stupid, badly made blockbusters for the most part, that a bunch of people will see that we can talk about, and I get it. Look, I know my tastes, I know my sensibility, I know they run contrary to Mark's in some respects. I'm fine with that. When he makes up the schedule, I imagine there's at least 3 movies every year that he just goes, oh boy, Winfrey's going to hate this one, but I'm going to love it.
Can I just stop you there for a second? See, you know what don't like? You know what I don't like about you? I got a bone to pick with you, Winfrey, okay? Because here's the thing. I run a well-organized, tight ship. The Rattledge and Broadcasting Network is nothing if not organized.
Hang on. I have to mute myself. Keep going. Because I'm going to laugh at this.
But I sent you the schedule a year in advance. You knew this was on the schedule. And here's the thing. I give you veto power over any movie that's on there. You also have the ability to take off at least one movie per year that you just outright morally are obligated to not see. You chose Creed this year for some weird reason, which I won't even get into. You had the opportunity to veto Robin Hood. You didn't. You accepted the schedule. Anything after that, all your whining and crying and carrying on, I just assume is a bit. So it's your own fault.
I was not aware that you gave me veto power for this schedule. I knew you had for 2019. I didn't know it retroactively applied to the year we were already in.
When I send you a schedule, and I say this is what we're doing for the next year, so like I've more or less sent you 2019. That hasn't changed tremendously. And I said, yeah, knock on wood. 2019's more or less set in stone as far as Damn You Hollywood features go. So you and I submit to you the list. And it's not like what we do online is somewhat sticky. But, I mean, I send this to you in email, and I say, here's the list, okay? Do you have any problems with this? And you go, I'll take a look. And then you email me back, and you go, it's fine. So, and that is exactly what you told me for 2018 when I sent it to you in 2017.
Yeah, again, I was not aware I had actual veto power. Okay, we're not doing Mary Poppins, and we're not doing Bumblebee.
No, the list is already set. See?
Oh, so there's an expiration. Like, okay, no, you can veto anything, but I'm not going to tell you can veto anything until after the expiration date on your veto power.
Look, when I send you the memo that has the list on it, that is when the veto power applies. Once you answer me, your veto power is then void.
All right, fair enough.
And I've already sent you 2019, so the next time you have veto power is 2020.
No, I'm going to go over 2019's again. I was, again, like, there were specific intricacies to this that I was not aware of. I'm going to go over 2019's again. I mean, I'm probably not going to, change anything because you try to schedule a bunch of crap that always falls through, and I find it fear when it falls through.
Mm.
Here's why as it pertains to Robin Hood specifically. Because I very rarely say, this looks good in review. Again, at post-veto power, I very rarely say, Mark, please take this off the schedule. I complain about movies. There's at least one or so a year I won't see for whatever reason, be that scheduling or just my interest is so rock bottom not there. Like, I mean, again, with Creed, since it got brought up, I'm not seeing it because I spend too much time in the combat sports world. I don't want to consume movies about it, generally speaking. There's nothing about that movie that interests me. And, I mean, it's not there. I'm not going to do it. You're going to have 2 or 3 other people on to take my place. It'll be fine. But after the first trailer for this movie dropped, I think we both kind of looked at each other metaphorically and went, this is going to be worse than we thought. Then the next trailer dropped, and oh, heavens, it gets worse.
In my defense, here's what happened with this movie, because theoretically I could have dropped it from the schedule. Here's the problem, and here's where I'm trying to make changes in 2019, so that let's call this the Robin Hood disaster. Okay?
All right.
Let us pray.
We're not actually going to get to the movie for 30 minutes. This is the best.
Let us call this situation the Robin Hood disaster. Okay? So as not to repeat the Robin Hood disaster, I'm trying to not build entire weeks around movies anymore. For the sake of doing it. The problem with dropping... Here's the thing. When this was initially scheduled for, I think, either August or September, which we know are not heavy movie months. So it's like, well, so as to have something...
God, there was nothing in September. This thing still would have cratered, but it wouldn't have worse by comparison.
Yeah, whoever thought this was a great idea to put out during Thanksgiving was, against Wreck-It Ralph and Creed 2, was a bona fide fucking moron. Anywho, when this initially was announced for like September, I don't think there was anything else. And so to have something on the schedule, I was like, okay, well, let's do Robin Hood. I'm sure it'll be fine. And this is before I knew
what damn fools we were.
Yeah, who knew they were going to go with the costuming from Xena Warrior Princess? I had no idea. Bunch of painted women running around 15th century England, but whatever. We'll get to that. So...
we will.
So there was nothing on the schedule. Figured, okay, we'll go see Robin Hood. It'll be fine. We'll make fun of it. It'll be, whatever. But then I was like, okay, but this gives me an opportunity to do a bunch of different things. We'll do the Hawkeye comic that got a lot of praise by Matt Fraction, which we have done. This will give me an opportunity to do an on trial for Prince of Thieves, which
is at this point is like the second best cinematic adaptation of the Robin Hood story behind the Disney version.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, like, the Errol Flynn Robin Hood... Errol Flynn? Is that right? Errol Flynn Robin Hood?
Errol Flynn had it. Errol Flynn had a couple of good ones, and I just think they're too dated for me to enjoy at this point, but they capture the swashbuckling aspect quite well.
Well, that seems to be what modern Robin Hood movies are judged by, and they are all wanting. But, on trial really does give me the opportunity to go back and look at some of these films from, like, the 80s and 90s, sometimes the 70s, and go, what are we doing here? What's going on with these movies? And so I was like, okay, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was a monster in its time, as far as it was it did well.
Huge box office.
Yeah,
success.
Huge box office. I was like, this will be a fun one to debate. Okay, now I've built an entire week around this one movie. Then we see the trailer. Then they move the movie. And it's like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. But I've already built a week around it. And so I'm like, well, we trudged forward and we did it anyway, and here we are, and I would much rather be doing something else like sleeping. But the lesson I've learned here is, I started to build a week around the Charlie's Angels movie, then they moved it, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. While it is fun to build these thematic weeks on the schedule and have all these different things to talk about, I'm not letting it be the guiding force to how I schedule. If something moves and it becomes an inconvenient move for me schedule-wise, fuck it, it's coming off the schedule, and I'm not looking back. So, you're lucky.
Thank you for that.
So you're lucky Charlie's Angels moved to a very inconvenient time.
Oh, no. No. I would not see that on any number of grounds. Just wouldn't do it.
All right. So with that being...
You put that on the schedule, I'm going to say no. No.
Okay, well, like I said, it moved to an inconvenient week, so we're not doing it.
All right. Okay, since we're going to get to the actual movie here, we promise. I just want to preface everything that's about to follow with the following true story about what happened to me this morning.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It'll be short. Okay, I see these movies that we have to review, generally speaking. We record this Tuesday evening. I see them Tuesday in the morning, generally. Because that's when my local cinemas have their $5 Tuesdays, so I don't have to spend $8 to go see these things. Again, it's the cheap day. I go early in the morning because I have other stuff to do. And that's just my basic schedule for these things because, again, I'm cheap. And it's less crowded. I love seeing movies in the theater. I hate being in the theater with other people. So I go to see this movie it starts at 10:45. So I leave the house, around 10:20-ish. Go there, watch the movie, and am subsequently horrified. Just shocked and appalled. I get back home and see a time-stamped Facebook message from Mark around 11:30. 11:15, 11:20. It says, "Are you seeing Robin Hood?" Because Mark and I had gone back and forth jokingly about whether or not I was actually going to see this. He said the time he posted on Facebook, "Oh, I'm going to see Robin Hood and we'll be reviewing it with Robert whether he likes it or not." My response was, "Enjoy your solo movie review." So, again, we always have to try and make sure that Mark and I know what's shtick and what's not. So there was a brief thing about, are you actually going to see this? Or are you being serious about that? No, I'll go see it if I don't become violently ill on Tuesday. And I was praying for illness. But I come back to this message that again says, "Are you seeing Robin Hood?" I get back around, 1:20? Right about, a little after 1 o'clock. And I said, "Yes, I just got back. Why do you hurt me like this?" His response was, "You're going to hate me, but I was going to tell you not to see it." This movie is so bad. Mark Radulich told me, don't go see it. After I'd already seen it. The one time a movie is so god-awful, it actually strikes the barest vestige of empathy that Mark has towards me. Normally a very empathetic man. Towards me, no, not so much. This movie strikes that particular chord. He rushes to say, "No, save yourself," and it's too late.
Well, quick explanation.
This is a Greek tragedy for my psyche, man.
I could feel my sinuses starting to go yesterday, but I hadn't fully gotten sick until I woke up this morning. And I woke up this morning, with just a full-blown cold. Like, I really wanted to just go back to bed this morning, and I slept for as long as I could without being, really late for work. And about midway through the day, I'm on the struggle bus, and I'm like, I don't want to stay up tonight to do a podcast. I just want to go home, take NyQuil and go to bed. Like, I don't even want to be a part of the usual family routine. Like, I called Melissa. I'm like, "Hey, are you going to be offended if I just take the night off? I feel like crap." She's like, "Nope, take care. Do what you got to do. Take care of yourself." And so I did. And, even before this podcast tonight, I've spent the last couple of hours that I've been home, in bed. And I feel a little bit better than I did before. But, boy, I got there's a package of NyQuil with my name on it. But what I really wanted was for Robert to not see this movie. So then, we'll just strike it from the record. We'll never speak of it again, and I'll go to sleep early and hopefully wake up feeling better tomorrow. But alas, I will not do that to him. I will not cancel a show that both of us have prepared for, especially in light of the fact that this movie hurt him so. Like being...
Well, hang on. In fairness, this hurt you too. Like... This was reciprocal suffering, okay? Just so everyone understands. That's how bad this movie is. This isn't, again, I hate to say Transformers again, but this isn't Transformers that Mark, took his pants off in the theater because he was having so much fun, and I wanted to die. No, we both hate this movie.
Yeah, I walked out of the movie. My wife had, I usually come home from the movies. I saw this Saturday night, and, I usually come home, and my wife will kind of wake up as I'm getting into bed. She's like, "Hey, how was your movie?" And I answered her angrily, like I was mad at her. Like that's how bad this movie. This movie was so bad it made me angry at my wife for asking me how it is.
She reminded you of its existence fresh off the trauma, and you just reacted badly.
Yeah, it's so bad. All right, let's do the plot synopsis and get this.
Let's get on to the actual movie, and then we'll get into what's so bad about it. Here's a spoiler. It's everything. All right, we are introduced to Robin of Locksley as he stops the maid Marian from stealing one of his horses because she has a neighbor whose horse came up lame or died, and she's being a good social servant and a good neighbor and trying to commit crimes to help out her neighbor. He just gives it to her because, hey, she's hot and he's rich. I mean, I say that facetiously, but plenty of dumber things have been done under exactly that same premise.
And for some
Most
odd reason,
believable thing about this movie.
do you have any idea why they dressed her like a Muslim?
For that opening scene,
Yeah.
she's trying to hide her identity.
Okay, it's
That's all I got.
15th or 16th century England. I just want you to keep that in mind.
I want to get into the anachronisms and how they don't work for this movie, because it's horrible. It is genuinely horrible.
Okay, I'm gonna let you continue, but I knew we were in trouble when I'm seeing this woman who's supposed to be Maid Marian, Robin Hood's childhood friend and lover, and she's dressed like Lawrence of Arabia.
Wasn't a good omen. They meet, they fall in love, as Robin Hood and Marian always do. Robin Hood gets drafted to serve in the Crusades. He leaves to serve in the Crusades. He spends 4 years fighting to reclaim the Holy Land. Again, I'm going to put off the anachronisms. I really am. Because I have things about this. I'm just going to put them off. We pick up with him 4 years later in the Holy Land. Jerusalem has mostly been reclaimed by this point. They're still doing some cleanup work. His group is ambushed because he won't leave his men behind to die, but it goes badly. We meet Jamie Foxx, who gets his hand cut off while he's trying to kill Robin. He's saved by his commanding officer, Guy of Gisborne. After this group is captured and taken back to military-style prison camps, they start simply executing prisoners. Gisborne says this is orders from on high, and there's nothing you can do about it. They start executing people. They execute Jamie Foxx's son. Robin objects to all of this, tries to save him, gets shot with an arrow. So he can go home on his... there was a whole plot point around this in Platoon. Like, if you get seriously injured twice, you get to go home. There's a guy at the end of that movie who stabs himself, and he survives the entire fight, stabs himself in the thigh with a bayonet just to get his second injury so he can get the hell out of Vietnam. Miraculously misses his femoral artery, by the way. Robin gets shot, sent home. Jamie Foxx stows away on his boat. When Robin gets back to England, turns out he was erroneously and maliciously declared dead, his property and land seized by the Sheriff of Nottingham on behalf of the Crown. Marian met somebody else and moved on because she kind of thought he was dead. Jamie Foxx introduces himself again to Robin Hood, who says he was so moved by the singular act of humanity in his years and years of war that was Robin trying to save his son from summary execution. He followed him all the way back to England, learned English somewhere along the way, has intimate knowledge of the political, economic, and power structures that are at play in the village of Nottingham, and now wants to help lead a revolution because he wants to stop the war, because there's at least 4 different points along his logic train that just don't connect. Vengeance would have been much simpler and more believable. We were introduced to the Sheriff of Nottingham, who in this instance is a mediocre demagogue. Putting that aside, get to it in a minute. Trying to rile up the people as he taxes them into further poverty and forces them into, essentially slave labor. Marian objects to all of this and is trying to help because she's a good person. Jamie Foxx decides to train Robin in the ways of the Arabian bow.
It would be much simpler to say that the Jamie Foxx character is trying to train Robin Hood in the ways of the League of Assassins. Sure. Let's go with that. He
begins stealing the taxes from the crown. He reintroduces himself to public life. There's a really crappy subplot about whether he will or not get back with Marion because he's trying to put her off as he plays the billionaire playboy by day, thief by night. Stop me if you've heard that before. He tries to get in good with the sheriff to uncover the insidious plot, because there must always be an insidious plot. Turns out that the sheriff and one of the cardinals of the Catholic Church, this does actually take place before the establishment of the Church of England, are trying to wrest control of the British crown from, I believe this is the Third Crusade, so I think it's King Richard. I mean, it's usually King Richard, whether or not they get the actual crusade right in the movie. It is canonically in Robin Hood canon, it is King Richard the Lionheart's crusade, whichever one that happens to be, and they play around with whichever one it is to suit whatever needs the narrative has. They want to wrest the crown from him by secretly funding the Arabs that he's fighting in Jerusalem, in Arabia. This is simultaneously discovered through Robin's infiltration and Marion and Friar Tuck breaking into his office and stealing a bunch of crap. This all kind of culminates in a couple of different things.
They stole a ledger that showed payments to some sort of Arab leadership. That's what that was.
Yeah. This culminates in a couple of different things. One, Robin tries to steal the mother lode, the big shipment of money going to the Arab generals. He swipes it, but some of his people don't make it out. He tries to give himself up. No, sorry. Before that, he winds up revealing who he is after kind of getting back together with Marion to inspire the people to rebel against the sheriff because redistribution of wealth. An actual line he says, God help us all.
I almost got up and left. Almost.
You and me both. Seriously, you and me both. He inspires a bit of an uprising that serves as a distraction for him stealing all of this money. He then gives himself up to make sure everyone else can kind of get out alive. Turns out Jamie Foxx, who was captured a little bit earlier because everyone always winds up captured, saves him. They kill the Sheriff of Nottingham. They escape to Sherwood Forest. The guy who took up with Marion, who is I assume Will Scarlet,
yep.
Not at all Two-Face. Don't let the fact that he has two faces fool you. It's not Two-Face. Totally not Harvey Dent. He becomes the new sheriff, and Robin Hood begins a further life of crime in the actual Sherwood Forest, because please let this launch a franchise. This is crap. This is utter crap.
There's been a lot of comparisons to basically they just stole the plot to half of Batman Begins and half of The Dark Knight and mashed them together and called it Robin Hood. And I can definitely see where they're coming from with that. I mean, these are...
Yep.
I mean, it's just shit. It's just shit. But, I mean, it's done poorly. But, yeah, that's basically what you have here, is you have Batman, who comes home and is a ninja and is able to do ninja things with a bow. Basically, Robert and I were talking before the show started about Arrow. Like, if you've seen the show Arrow, which I feel like the writers of this
also shit.
Definitely had, I feel like the writers of this looked at the show Arrow and be like, let's take all the stuff from that, good, bad, or indifferent, and put it into a Robin Hood movie. Which up to and includes calling him the Hood at one point. Which, if you don't know, is for the first few seasons what they referred to Arrow as. The Hood. You ever just want to throw things at a screen?
All the time.
My biggest problem, though, with this movie was because, again, it's your kind of standard modern action movie. It isn't as bad as the Guy Ritchie King Arthur, where everything moves
it's worse than that.
Well, no.
This is significantly less enjoyable than Charlie Hunnam's take on King Arthur.
No. You didn't let me finish. That's a better movie than this one. But what I was saying was, I was speaking specifically to the style and direction of the action, where that's stylized in that everything has to be sped up at some point or another, fast forward kind of a thing that they do. This doesn't do that. But this is your basic modern action movie. Like, they actually, I think, lost an opportunity to maybe tell a fun story if they hadn't called it Robin Hood and just come up with something new. Because that's all it is. It's a guy with a bow and arrow and a bunch of fight scenes, and then a lot of anachronistic dialogue. So it's this weird mixture of your average modern crappy action movie with people who have little to no understanding of modern politics, but think they do, and decided to put it into this movie.
Politics. Like, this thing is so heavy-handed with everything.
But here's the thing: none of that bothers me nearly as much. And I'm not like a costume person. Generally speaking, if you make it look somewhat relative to the time you're participating in, unless there's something really garish about it, I'm not even going to notice. Like, how many times have we in Damn You Hollywood have I referred to the costuming?
This would be a first.
The costuming is probably the worst offending thing in the movie in my eyes. You have people. I wanted to know where the cow pastures were, because that's what I kept thinking about. There's so much leather in this movie. Like,
it really is.
Everyone's got leather armor, leather jacket. I mean, Maid Marian is walking around in what appears to be a lycra gown and a leather half jacket. So, somebody on one of the Rotten Tomato reviews, in one of the rotten ones, was like, the costuming by H&M, which I laughed at, which is a women's department store.
It's probably about right.
So, look, I wasn't there during those times, but I'm pretty sure nobody dressed that way. And the amount of leather outfits in this movie, there would have had to have been cow pastures the size of fucking stadiums. Several football stadiums, with cows as far as the eye could see that were being slaughtered on an ongoing basis to produce the skin that would become tempered leather for these outfits. This was ridiculous. I mean, to the point that it took me out of the movie. Like, I regardless of the stupid line about redistribution of wealth, regardless of the fighting styles, regardless of everything else that happens in this movie that's just dumb. The praying for a franchise with the way that the stupid movie ends with Will Scarlet becoming the Sheriff of Nottingham. After his Two-Face moment. The thing that bothered me the most was, and they kept taking me out of the movie, because here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever been part of a LARP, which is if you don't know what a LARP is, it's a live-action role play, but that's what this looked like. This looked like a bunch of kids in their 20s doing a LARP of Robin Hood. And not being able to find, like, authentic, because you don't want to spend millions of dollars on a LARP, especially if you're in your 20s and you're in college. So you do your best to kind of come up to approximate what you think is a decent evidence. Here's the thing. I've been to LARPs that had more authentic-looking costumes. I've been to Ren fairs that look like, where people had more authentic-looking costumes than the ones in this movie.
There is not a single, even quasi-realistic outfit that the Sheriff of Nottingham ever wears in this movie.
He's wearing a leather duster! I was like... when he turned around, I thought it was going to be Jonah Hex. I swear to God.
A movie I might actually rather watch than this one.
When he puts on that leather coat with the leather duster, I was like, "What the fuck am I watching here?" Like, I expected you don't watch Legends of Tomorrow, but the way that when they're not on the wave rider, the way that they get around through time is these mechanisms that open like a square in space that they walk through, And I and I felt like I wanted to see him like use the device and walk out of the Old West, where there might have been just a little bit more leather available, maybe. Jesus Christ.
Possibly, yeah. I completely agree with you on that front.
He was missing a 10-gallon hat.
Yep.
Why they made the Sheriff of Nottingham look like a fucking cowboy, I have no idea.
Because everyone really wanted to be on Westworld.
Maid Marian's, other than the fact that she looked like a Muslim in the first scene, which I thought was an odd. I thought that was the story they were telling at first. I was like, oh, okay, in this iteration of Robin Hood, she's a Muslim wandering around England for some odd reason. Okay. And then it's like, no, we just feel the need to show off this woman's tits in the first scene. I don't know if you noticed that or not, with the outfit she's wearing. Again, no one dresses like that in that era.
Certainly not in that era.
But like, let's have her wander in to steal a horse wearing something from Victoria's Secrets apparently, and then a Muslim headscarf, and then it's, oh wait, you're an English woman, sure,
Irish. She's totally rocking the Irish accent. Because multiculturalism. I don't know.
Yeah, other than that, I was bored, and the costuming took me out of the movie. And yeah, Jamie Foxx's whole rhetoric as far as why he wants revenge. I'll tell you what. One thing I will say about this movie, we get to I chose you. I choose you to be my hand in this fight against the English Empire. To him actually like committing acts of thievery relatively quickly, and at first I was kind of.
And yet somehow it's still it is quick, and it still seems to take forever.
Well, at first I was kind of grateful that the training sequences were not very long. Like it's a handful of scenes of him getting faster at shooting arrows, and that's about it. And then we're on to other things. I thought that was going to be most of the movie, which thankfully it wasn't. On the other hand, personal preferences aside, it's completely and utterly unbelievable that this guy, like if you watch, I just watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves to gear up for Thursday, and you have Kevin Costner who doesn't even try.
I have a very large soft spot in my heart for that movie.
Well, you have Kevin Costner who, is so happy to be back from the Crusades. He throws himself on the sand. He and he's kissing the ground and everything, and then he goes home and and his estate has been destroyed, and there's nobody there anymore. And at one point, he tells Morgan Freeman, who is doing the Chewbacca life debt thing, you might as well just go. My life is upside down. And I was watching it, and it was one of the kind of weaker parts of the film because. If I came home and found my family was gone, my house had been burned down, and what wealth I once had has gone up into the ether, I'd probably be more distraught than what Kevin Costner was showing at that time. He just kind of flippantly says, "My life is turned upside down. There's no point in staying with me." And Morgan Freeman argues with him, and we're on to other stuff. However, that was practically like over the top, like overacting in comparison to how this. I don't know who's the actor in this. Taron Egerton. Taron Egerton. Compared to how he acts when he comes home and sees his life has been utterly destroyed. Where it's like in a flash, he goes from "my life is utterly destroyed" to "we're going to start robbing the Sheriff of Nottingham." And there's no emotion there. There's nothing. It was like he was like, okay, cool. When I can't wait to trade on my life of being royalty, of being a lord to being a common criminal. As if people go from one extreme to the other that easily. Like there's no beat at all. You know what I mean? There was like there's nothing.
Oh, yeah.
There was no dramatic. There were no dramatic beats in this movie. It's just people are doing things because the plot says so. which is the worst kind of writing.
It really is. And there's a lot of that kind of writing here.
The one thing I liked about the movie, believe it or not, and I kind of wish this had been the whole thing, I liked the crusade scenes. I'm not entirely sure about the costuming even then, but it looked cool. I could be made to believe.
No, the costuming there is still terrible. It's deliberately designed to evoke contemporary military garb.
No, I got that much of it, but I mean, as far as what kind of armor, again, they're not knights, so I don't know if they'd be going in full plate armor, and how much plate armor do you really have available for this sort of thing? So and if he's supposed to be an archer, you don't want to be in full plate armor anyway. You're gonna be wearing too much. You're wearing too much heavy plate to be able to carry off a decent shot. So it looked like he was more in almost like a specialized unit. I don't know. I maybe I'm reading too much into it. I like the look of those scenes, and I understand they were evoking modern desert warfare, but it still looked pretty cool to me. I kind of wish that was the whole movie. Like now,
it looks better than literally everything else in the movie. So
I like the. I like what's supposed to approximate body armor, which didn't exist in that time, but still, even
the rudimentary theory of body armor didn't really exist outside of we like armor, but
yeah, would have been more accurate that if he had been wearing like a crest on his chest, like in that case, I could have seen some leather armor. He's wearing like a leather plate with a crest on it, and he's carrying a small shield. Like, that would have made more sense to me. But, again, whatever. I was enjoying watching him kind of run around the battlefield with kicking up sand and shooting arrows. I'm like, oh, this is fun.
Hey, machine gun fire. That's a thing. No, it's not. Signal the artillery.
So that was like the high point of the movie for me. Like, I was enjoying him in the Crusades, and then that scene ends, and I'm like, and it just goes downhill from there. But no matter how anachronistic that scene was, no matter how ridiculous the costumes are in that scene, I enjoyed that part of it. I can't tell you why, I just did.
That's fair. I didn't. Let me get what I believe are the objective things out of the way, and then we'll get into my subjectivity about this. One, the writing. Again, we talked a little bit about the writing just being bad. People do things because the plot says so. Like, they try to give the Sheriff of Nottingham a few moments of character depth where he hates the nobility as well because rich people are bad.
He was abused.
I mean, sure. Like, I get that, but he was also abused, by the wealthy people, and now he hates the upper class because it's unfair that 1% of the world controls so much of the... shut up, Bernie. It's...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 99%. Sorry, go ahead.
It's annoying, but they also don't actually expound on it. It feels like they try to go full-on villain with him at times, but it never works because you never see him do anything villainous. Like, no, man, I hate these nobles. Maybe we should hang a few of them to keep the others in line. And Robin's response to this is, you only need to hang one. And then he doesn't hang anybody. Like, if you're going to throw that line out there, I want to see somebody swing. You're gonna take film time to establish this. There better be some payoff. I mean, he keeps threatening people, and he has some good threats, but they're hollow. Again, we never, apart from taxing people into further poverty and being just kind of a conniving jackass, we never see him do anything really reprehensible. He's more evil because he's in a position of power than because he does evil things.
Can I take a quick second to complain about Taron Egerton's hair?
You can complain about everything involving Taron Egerton.
So, whether he's in the midst of the battle, or he's stealing, or he's crawling through mud, or whatever the situation was calling for, you ever notice his hair was perfectly coiffed the entire time?
Yeah, under machine gun fire, or their equivalent. I mean, I don't know what kind of gel he uses, but that stuff would not move.
No, he looked picture perfect in every scene of that movie.
He was posing for an 8x10 glossy in every single frame of this movie that he's in. The old camera Horatio. That's my joke about that, about Caruso from CSI Miami. Isn't he Horatio there? The name of that character?
Yeah.
He's camera Horatio.
At least Kevin Costner's hair gets tousled throughout Prince of Thieves.
Yeah. And at least Morgan Freeman's mostly bald to kind of sell that. God, it's... So, again, the writing is bad. For some reason, Jamie Foxx knows things his character only knows because the plot says he knows them. I mean, this is a guy who, by his own admission, has been fighting crusaders in the Holy Land his entire life. How he understands the political structure of England is utterly beyond me and defies all logic. I mean, the whole Marion took up with another man thing is vaguely pathetic from a writing standpoint because it's pointless drama. I mean, as soon as you see that, you know, there's only two things that are going to happen with that guy. He's either a jackass who becomes a villain or he's going to die. I mean, they never even really present him as likable. The first bits of actual interaction he has with another character in anything approximating a one-on-one scene, he yells at Marion for ruining his political career. Despite the fact that under the law of England at that time, you didn't have a political career unless you were born into it.
Yeah, he's supposed to be your, like, up by your bootstraps, like, Republican ethos character, except for the fact that since he's not a noble and he's not royalty, he was a commoner, he isn't becoming anything.
I mean, and of course, you know, the church is corrupt because...
Of course it is.
Because I imagine, like, it's because of reasons. Well, why is the church corrupt? There was probably a writer's room discussion that was something like this. Okay, the church is corrupt. From the corner, someone with half a brain goes, why? And everyone else goes, reasons, shut up. How dare you point out that we actually have to write things, not just throw crap at the screen. I hate the action in this movie. It's repetitive. It's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again, and one really badly animated carriage chase.
Yeah, again, if you've watched the show Arrow, it's one of the reasons. I'm like, I've committed to the show now, but it's one of the reasons why I resisted it for so long, and why I'm more into shows like Legends or Flash is every episode is the same thing. It's kung fu fighting. That's it. That's all there is to it. He's amazingly never misses with a shot. The arrows the arrows that he shoots do incredible things. Like they break the laws of physics.
Okay, look, let's be clear about this. The stormtroopers that director Kranich has around him in this movie, the armor these guys are wearing is less effective than stormtrooper armor, which has no effect whatsoever. Like, we're decked out in plate armor and helmets, and it does not matter. We may as well have been buck naked in the face of this man's magic bow.
It goes to the Star Wars Family Guy joke where the stormtroopers are all being shot with arrows by the Ewoks. And then one of them just yells out, "This armor is useless. Why do we even wear it?"
To be fair, that's been a point of contention long before Seth MacFarlane decided to exploit it.
Mm.
It is. I mean, if you're going to wear armor, it should serve a purpose. Theirs doesn't. And neither do the knights in this. This movie is also unbelievably derivative. I mean, we mentioned the Dark Knight comparisons that people were making. There's a few other things that, in addition to the story, the soundtrack, the musical score that accompanies their heist of the armored wagon is a blatant ripoff of the Joker's heist music from the beginning of The Dark Knight. I mean, I was listening to that going, really? You straight up, not even like loosely inspired by, you straight up ripped off Hans Zimmer.
Lionsgate, you have failed the film industry.
Miserably. Then the big gimmick for them is for them stealing the armored car is actually lifted wholesale from the remake of The Italian Job, which was literally them just demoing a piece of roadway to collapse the armored car into the sewers underneath so they could steal the gold. Again, I mean, I'm almost not sure I want to call it derivative so much as plagiaristic. Because you're just lifting from other things. That's literally all you're doing with this.
So I feel
all this movie does is remind you of 80 better movies.
So I feel like somebody at Lionsgate was like, I mean, I know it's like Appian Way that actually produced this, and Lionsgate is the distributor, but like overall, somebody had to make the call to take what's the phrase for something that's nobody owns the rights to it anymore. It's
public domain.
Thank you, public domain. It's like, so Lionsgate is sitting there going, okay, we don't have the money for any actual intellectual property. So what's out there that's well known, that's public domain? Robin Hood. Okay. And then they got a bunch of writers together. They're like, okay, let's sit down and fashion a Robin Hood movie. And people just and I feel like the way that they conjured up this script was not by actually coming up with a story that was worth telling, because the Robin Hood story is kind of the Robin Hood story, but taking that bare structure, and then they're like, okay, don't come up with plot or characterizations or anything else like that. Take buzzword. Think of some buzzword. Think of some modern buzzwords or things that are popular, things that made money. Put them on an index card and then put them on this wall. And that's how they, and people put up like Trump and redistribution of wealth and socialism, and they put
Trump,
up
communism.
They put up
American interventionism.
Somebody put up The Dark Knight. It's like, somebody put up The Italian Job, and it was like, oh, okay, we'll take all this stuff and we'll put it into a pot and we'll come up with mush. This isn't like a well thought out script. It literally is a collection of buzzwords and ideas that really don't connect.
And I mean, to be fair, it's also stupid ideas. Look, I can accept a variety of perspectives on the world of politics and how we choose to interact with it. I really can. I mean, I don't think my way is the only way. I don't think my thinking is always the best thinking. Mark and I disagree on a few things. I have plenty of friends who have very different views than I do. This isn't look at me, I'm so diverse. This is to understand that when I say the ideas put forward in this are stupid, I'm not dismissing. I mean, look, I think socialism is stupid. It's been proven with, hundreds of millions of dead bodies over the last 100 years. But hey, what do I know?
This isn't the film to be carrying the message of the veracity of socialism.
It's not good enough to. It just isn't.
Right.
But the way they go about it is really stupid. You have the sheriff at one point give a speech about we have to be over there because if we're not over there, they'll be over here. And Robin gets no. What does he mean they're going to be right here? As he's talking to an Arab who was literally killing Crusaders 4 months ago. I mean, does the irony of who he's having that conversation with never enter his mind? As he's expressing the opinion, they're never coming over here. He acts like they're at the gates, as Jamie Foxx's character is literally already inside the gates. There is, again, I don't think there's anything good about this movie. I'm personally a little bit sick of the narrative that the Crusades were a bad thing. I mean, if you want to have a nuanced discussion about the pros and cons of the Crusades from both sides, you be that the English or the Arab world reclaiming Jerusalem, fine. It's a nuanced issue, and there's plenty of room to have intelligent discussion about it. I thought the if you want a better movie dealing exclusively with this, not just loosely, find the director's cut of Ridley Scott's.
It's like The Last Crusade or something like that. You're talking about the Orlando Bloom movie?
It's the Orlando Bloom movie, yeah. Liam Neeson. Why can't I remember the name of this movie?
All right, you keep going. I'll look it up. But I like that movie a lot, by the way.
If you've seen the director's cut, it's a great, great movie. Like, genuinely great. And that takes a more nuanced view. There are good guys and bad guys on both
Kingdom
sides.
of Heaven.
There's Kingdom of Heaven, thank you. Yeah, and that takes a more nuanced look. This movie's position seems to be, how dare the white man be in the Arab Peninsula? Piss off. And again, it's very, very heavy-handed with all of its politics. I mean, I like your idea of the writer's room for this, and because I think that's probably accurate. There's just nothing good about this movie at all. I mean, I didn't enjoy a single minute of it. The acting's not good. The set design isn't good. The action isn't good. The writing isn't good. The dialogue isn't good. The plot isn't good. The cinematography isn't good. Literally nothing about this movie is good. I cannot imagine how this movie got made. I mean, if we take the other worst movie of the year, A Wrinkle in Time, right? Just total terrible movie. Just dog crap. I at least know how and why that movie got made. Because Disney wanted it, and Oprah wanted it, and the power of Oprah compels you. I don't know. But I know that Oprah's involvement spurred forth a significant amount of the production and how that movie came to be. And much as it sucks as a movie, much as there's like nothing good about it, and I mean absolutely nothing good about that movie, I understand the process of how it came to be. Disney has to do something with this property they own the rights to. Oprah wants to be involved in this because Oprah. We can play on all these buzzwords, and it fails miserably on every level, but I see how it happened. I don't see how this happened.
So I'm looking at the Lionsgate studio page at Box Office Mojo. Okay?
They've had a terrible year.
Well, you wonder, like how did this movie get made? They're trying to compete with the big studios. That was the whole point of this movie, Robert. The point of Robin Hood was, and that's why I said before, they had to have looked around at what was public domain that they didn't have to pay money for as far as intellectual property and say, what can we build a franchise on? That's the name of the game right now. They were trying desperately to build a franchise out of Robin Hood. It was like they took the lessons learned by Warner Brothers and said, "Hey, you know how Warner Brothers looked at Marvel and Disney and said, we want that Avengers money, so we'll skip all the road work and putting together a universe and go right to the team movie," and how that was a miserable failure. And they're like, it was as if Lionsgate looked at that and said, "Hold our beer. We can do better. We can make even worse decisions." So, looking at what they had to work with this year, okay? They had a simple favor. That's their best movie. I don't remember what that is, but it came out in September. Overboard. That came out in May.
What a terrible idea that was. Hey, let's flip the gender roles in Overboard. Make one of them Indian or some other ethnicity, and people will like it because no. People tolerate the original because of nostalgia and Kurt Russell just kind of being Kurt Russell.
Tyler Perry's Acrimony, which, had its audience, but not a large audience. Uncle Drew, The Commuter.
Wasn't that like LeBron James?
Yeah, that was the basketball movie where everyone dresses up in old people makeup.
That is stupid.
The Commuter, which was, again, everyone sat in a writer's room going, maybe we can get Liam Neeson to do a Taken movie for us.
To be fair, I saw a trailer for another version of that movie with Liam Neeson as a snowplow driver.
Yup, I saw that too.
To be fair, I'm all in for that. Like, if you're gonna, my problem with Commuter was it largely took itself too seriously and terrible CGI. If if this new Liam Neeson revenge style movie takes itself with the appropriate amount of tongue in cheek, because it's not going to be Taken, because Taken was brilliant. If you're going to do a little bit of tongue in cheek with this, I'm all for it. Like, I'm all for slightly over the top, self-aware revenge action movies that play on, the genre, especially with an actor like Neeson, who in a lot of ways revitalized the genre again with Taken.
The Spy Who Dumped Me, which not even MoviePass could get people to go see.
Hey, I know what we'll do. We'll have Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon on screen together, and people will see it. No, they won't.
People like Kate McKinnon when she does her impressions on Saturday Night Live. Surely they'll go see her in an action comedy with the Bad Moms gal, Winchester, Hunter Killer, and then coming in at number 9, Robin Hood, and just under that, Hellfest. So again, you're looking around, and I'll tell you what, the buying of Fox Studio had to get some of these other smaller studios shaking in their boots and thinking, we've got to do something. We're all going to get bought by Disney. Disney
Can
Plus,
I also just say that?
Hang on, Disney Plus
you mentioned this.
Hang on,
Go ahead.
Disney Plus is coming out next year. Disney right now is a stark, raving, hungry, crazed zombie, and it cannot be satiated. It needs to feed. It needs to feed on content. It's up against Netflix, Hulu, well, not so much Hulu since they own part of it now, Amazon, and like a billion other, DC Universes and CBS All Access and all these other little streaming apps that are coming, and more are coming on the way. Disney, in order for Disney Plus to be successful, they need content to compete, and they're just looking at all these other little studios, going, well, barring the federal government interfering and pulling out what's the word I'm looking for here? Antitrust, monopoly laws on us. You will all be eaten. You are all meat, and Lionsgate's looking around, going, maybe Robin Hood will save us.
Yeah, no. All right. Again, this is just this is a terrible movie, and thankfully, you know what I find hilarious about situations like this, and I don't mean to delve too much into the political side of things, because you're here to hear me talk about movies, not ramble about politics. I assume you don't care, but. And most of the time I try not to go too far into it, because on occasion I think it's relevant and necessary based on the film. I mean, again, there's a lot that we do. There's a few movies that we do get into this on occasion because it is relevant to the discussion surrounding the film. Which is the primary thing is, again, talking about the movie. Occasionally that means we have to talk about society at large and politics that go along with it. Not the other way around. We don't talk about society and occasionally talk about movies. But this is one of those movies like, it's not, I don't want to, actually there was a comparison I was going to make that I'm not, because the other movie isn't nearly as bad as this one. But I feel like the people who wrote this, again, threw buzzwords together, and I like that. They put them on 3x5 cards, they stuck them on a wall until they had enough. Then they took them off the cork board. They threw them up in the air, watched how they came down, and went, that. And as this thing fails miserably and is lampooned, it's lampooned critically, and no one is actually seeing it, which is the worst possible combination of things for a movie. Like, you can be a bad movie that everyone sees and kind of enjoys.
Venom.
Sure. Yes. You can be a great movie that few people see, but is great artistically and technically. You can occasionally get something that does both. That's very rare, but it does happen.
Lord of the Rings.
The worst possible outcome is to be a bad movie that nobody sees and nobody likes. That is the worst of all possible worlds for a film. That's where this one landed. And I wish I could be just, kind of a fly on the wall in the writer's room as they're dealing with the aftermath of this going, but it's so socially relevant. I don't understand. Why aren't they seeing it?
I think when I think about the producers of this and and the decision makers, I feel like it's again, I reference this a lot, but I always think about the Poochie episode on The Simpsons.
In fairness to your point, I am almost certain they completely ripped all their material from that episode from all their studio meetings. Everything about the Poochie episode is the most realistic, believable thing The Simpsons has ever done.
People occasionally ask me why I don't do Whiskey Rebellion or PC Live or any of my old political shows anymore. Part of it was it takes me almost no preparation to do the podcast I do now. It's like I watch something, I jot down some mental notes, and then I have a discussion with with people who I respect and enjoy talking to about things that I enjoyed watching or did not enjoy watching. And then and then that's it. And then I go on about my life. With those shows, that took a lot of preparation time and a lot of thinking about how I felt about it, and then coming up with something that was worth telling people about these things. And I have a fucking family to deal with now. I don't have that kind of time. But the other part...
look, the people who do daily political shows or podcasts, I don't know how they do it.
Well, they have a staff, for one thing. They have a research staff.
Which does help a lot.
And that's their full-time job.
Which would be nice.
Yeah.
But nice work if you can get it.
But the other reason why not only did I stop doing podcasts on politics, but I kind of stopped talking about it with people was I just found that most of the people I come in contact with have a minimal or zero understanding of how things work. It's like, God bless them, it's like talking to my father-in-law. I feel like everybody I talk to is my father-in-law. He has his point of view. Some of his point of view is educated, and based on, on actual facts, things that he's learned. And some of it's just his own prejudices and the fact that he's, 50, 60 some odd year old man and isn't going to be convinced otherwise. And then that's not a fun conversation to have with somebody.
Somehow all the 20-year-olds are now aping literally every aspect of that.
That's what I was getting to. I feel like everybody I talk to, whether it's a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 60-year-old, or an 80-year-old, has turned into my father-in-law. And I hate talking to my father-in-law for that reason. I love him to death, don't get me wrong. And my wife were in here right now. I tell her I love my father-in-law. I respect him. There are certain things I will ask his opinion on. But he's the kind of person, he doesn't like combat sports. He thinks that, I don't want to get into a side thing on this. Just as an example.
I will just let you say your piece.
Thank you.
I understand your perspective. Look, I know you're a fan of them. I know you're not trying to talk down, but you're relaying an anecdote. I'm not going to interrupt you.
He was like, if you did any of the things that they do in the ring, you'd be arrested for battery. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, but that's like his go-to argument anytime I bring up anything having to do with boxing or MMA. And it's like, no matter how many times I've told him that there are less concussions collectively in boxing and MMA than there are in football, but side to side, there are less brain injuries in combat sports than there are. He'll tell you, yeah, but if you did those things in the street, you'd be arrested for battery, which isn't an actual argument.
That really isn't. That's profoundly stupid. Are you ignoring the voluntary transaction taking place here?
Yes,
he's heavily regulated and overseen.
He is overtly ignoring that part of it, and I've tried to point that out, and then he basically, the lights dim, he grows 10 feet bigger, and it's Gandalf that I'm evoking here, from the Lord of the Rings. I am not trying to steal from you.
Cheap tricks.
Yeah. So my point is, without burying my father-in-law even further.
No, keep going. It's amusing to me.
Is that no matter who I talk to, no matter what side of the political fence, they have such a minimal understanding of how, and I'm like no great genius or anything. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure sometimes I sound on this podcast like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I feel like I have a closer understanding of how the world works than most of the people I'm surrounded by. Yet these are the loudest talkers, and they all have they all have this very loud opinion about how we should fix the world. And it makes me want to kill myself every time I hear them talk. So I don't engage in those conversations anymore because I would prefer not to feel suicidal on an ongoing basis.
Well, that would be nice. I haven't known what that's felt like for 20 years.
Don't make me do the Utah version of a Baker Act on you. So why am I going off on this sidebar? Because it's like those kind of people who I just don't want to talk to anymore, and I feel like I'm surrounded by, wrote this movie. They have a very minimal understanding of how the world, but they think they know exactly how the world works, and they think that their opinions are right on the money, and decided to put a movie about Robin Hood, put all of those views into it, as if the audience itself was waiting for that message to be conveyed back to them. And it's like, wow, you couldn't have been more wrong, and your costume sucked.
Yep. I mean, again, to be clear about this, I don't hate... I mean, everyone has a perspective. It's always going to inform what you do. I don't hate putting your political perspective into your movie from time to time, provided it services the narrative, is done with intelligence and deftness, and isn't insulting to the intelligence of the audience or to people who have disagreements, be they rational or irrational. This
might be more profoundly stupid than George Lucas's opinion on politics in the prequels, which was probably the most ham-handed, terribly handled combination of politics and sci-fi fantasy I've ever seen.
It's up there.
I
would struggle to come up with a worse one. I'm sure they exist, but I haven't seen them.
We have been at this for an hour and 10 minutes.
Just wait for Mortal Engines to come out, and we might be able to revisit that point.
I actually want to go see that. It's not on the schedule for us to review, but I want to go see it.
I'm torn because I think it could be very good. I don't think it will be, but I think there's a lot of potential there that will just wind up going unrealized.
I like Peter Jackson's production team. That's literally the reason I'm going to see this. Other than that, I can see.
Come on, Hugo Weaving's a good actor.
Of course. All right, we got an hour and 10 minutes for a movie I wanted to be done with in a half an hour. We're moving on.
All right, let's get on to the money because there is none.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
This is already being cited with a $100 million budget as one of the biggest box office disasters of the year. Mind you, the other two are both Disney films right now. It's A Wrinkle in Time and Star Wars, a Star Wars story.
So the studio that has wiggle room to play around with in their profit margins gambled and lost on a few different projects. They also have $2 billion films this year. Well,
yeah.
one $2 billion, one $1 billion.
A few that are, like Incredibles is up there too. So the Disney can afford to have a few disasters in the year, and boy do they. Last year, 2017 and 2016 were like the year. 2016 is hilarious. You got to hear this list. So this is from the Wikipedia page for biggest box office bombs, okay? And I have it listed in order by year. This is 2016, and I'm pretty sure this was all of them. Like all the movies. Okay? Every movie released that year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, The Promise, Monster Trucks, Live by Night, The Huntsman, Winter's War, The Great Wall, Gods of Egypt, Ghostbusters, The Finest Hours, Deepwater Horizon, The BFG, Ben-Hur, Allied, Alice Through the Looking Glass. I'm fairly certain,
that's a list.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of press about how the
releases. We almost reviewed a bunch of those.
Yeah, we did.
In fact, we did review some of them.
Well, what I was going to say is, I feel like the press on that year was they didn't think Hollywood would ever come back from that. there was a lot of press pronouncing the end of the movie industry. That everything was just
because they were stupid.
2017 was a little bit better, but not much. It was Valerian, The City of a Thousand Planets, Power Rangers, The Mummy, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, Geostorm, Blade Runner, and that's it. And so this year, right now, it's just A Wrinkle in Time and Solo, but I'm sure Robin Hood will be making that list shortly. In the meantime...
I mean, the biggest thing, I think that one of the major differences, especially if you compare 16 to 18, 16 had nothing but flops for months and months on end. 18 has some flops. It also has, again, at least 3 massive home runs.
Yeah.
Including one that's probably going to wind up being one of the major cultural touchstones for an entire generation of people.
Yeah. So
people talk about the snap the same way people of your generation talk about, no, Luke, I am your father.
With that being said, I don't know what possessed Lionsgate to think this was a good idea to release Thanksgiving weekend, but...
I don't know what they spent $100 million on. It wasn't the costuming. It wasn't the CGI. It wasn't the lighting.
We spent $20 million on leather.
We went down to our local fetish store, all right?
So... I'm pretty sure Disney had this date for Ralph Breaks the Internet for like 2 years now.
Probably.
Creed had a very short production time. It was like announced it was like Creed 1 was successful. They immediately announced they're going to do a second one based on the success of the first one. And then within like a few months it was into production and they were shooting and it was done. I mean, it's not like they had to do a lot of special effects for Creed 2. So
or pay anyone involved. Or write a compelling story. So
with that being said, I'm pretty sure MGM had nailed down a date for Creed 2 pretty early on. So the people at Lionsgate had to have known that by moving Robin Hood from no competition in September to all the competition Thanksgiving weekend, that there was no way they were going to be successful against a Disney sequel, and a Disney animated sequel, a beloved Disney animated sequel, Creed 2.
People love Wreck-It Ralph?
Yes.
All right.
They do. Yeah, go to Disney.
You would know, I wouldn't. Fine. I'm shocked by that because I don't. In fairness, I don't think I've really seen it all the way through. I saw it a few times while donating plasma, and just was utterly uninspired by all of it. Hey, let's pander to video game nerds.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Throw in a feel-good story for little girls. Like,
not for nothing, but like I said, if my kids are the average child audience member, they saw the poster for Wreck-It Ralph in like January. And
they've been promoting this thing forever.
And asked me about it every time we went to the movies. Like, literally, like it was like Groundhog's Day. Every time we would go to the movies, we were like, oh, are we seeing Wreck-It Ralph? No, that doesn't come out until November. Every month. Every time. Every week.
I would genuinely like to know why they moved this from September to Thanksgiving, because, again, September had nothing. There was so much nothing in September, I think we took the month off.
Yeah, I don't know. September is such a nothing month that next year Jesse and I dedicated the entire month of September to one comic book. We're doing Onslaught.
Really?
Yeah. That was his suggestion.
That'll go badly.
Anyway, so here's how the weekend broke down. Ralph Breaks the Internet came in number 1. Creed number 2. The Grinch went from 2 to 3. Fantastic Sleep, The Crimes of Snooze went from 1 to 4. Bohemian Rhapsody 3 to 5. Instant Family 4 to 6. Robin Hood debuted at number 7.
Debuted at 7, people.
Debuted. It's weekend
for a wide release $100 million budget movie.
Yeah, its weekend gross didn't even top $10 million.
This thing cratered on impact. There's gonna be, there is a hole now in Lionsgate where this thing fell to earth.
Widows went from 5 to 8. It's another one where I really question why they made that movie.
Because they could make it, people wouldn't really see it, and they could bitch about why audiences wouldn't see a thriller starring an African American woman.
Green Book 22 to rose because I guess it opened in a bunch more theaters. 22 to 9. A Star Is Born fell from 7 to 10. Nutcracker, again another, which will end up being another fucking box office bomb for Disney. 6 to 11.
Yeah, Disney doesn't care. Disney can afford to throw crap at the wall.
Yeah. Well,
off the success of Infinity War.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And again, I'll say it again. Disney Plus. At this point, even their losses are gravy that they're going to make money on because people will watch The Nutcracker in the Four Realms on Disney Plus around Christmas time. So there you go.
Nah, no one will.
Sure they will.
It'll just take up digital space. No one will use it.
Hey, look, if everyone watched that racist Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, they'll watch A Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Hey, that is not racist.
Sure it is. Have you
The
checked
fact
Twitter?
that I have to actually bring this up to people on occasion, like, isn't it racist that they've got the black kid sitting on the other side of the table from everybody else? The thing was written in 1957. The fact that he's at the table at all was a statement. You bunch of morons.
Have you checked Twitter lately? That Charles M. Schultz, who fought to have a black character in the show, was quite the racist. And those
Nearly quit his own strip over it when they said, no, we can't have a black character sitting down with the white characters. He said, fine, I'm done.
And those orcs in Lord of the Rings.
No, this guy, flaming racist for not having... Shut up, people.
And,
come on.
And
Context.
The orcs in Lord of the Rings are also racist, by the way.
Is someone actually making that argument?
Yeah, it's on my Facebook feed.
Who are these morons? Why are they being paid for this?
Overlord 8 to 13, Nobody's Fool 11 to 14, Venom, which has now made more money than all of the DC Cinematic Universe movies. There's some shit
That's
like that.
So sad, but I think it's probably better than all of them except Man of Steel.
Yeah. The Front Runner 35.
No, wait. Do you count Wonder Woman?
It made more money than Wonder Woman.
I know it made more money than Wonder Woman. I'm trying to decide how I feel about. No, Wonder Woman was a better movie than Venom.
Well,
Man of Steel was a better movie than
if you're
Venom.
happy that Venom made more money than Wonder Woman, you hate women. Just remember that. Twitter said so.
Look, I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about Venom making money at all because it means there's going to be more. I vocally blamed foreign markets for this last week.
Can You Ever Forgive Me fell from 14 to 17. Free Solo 1918. The Favorite debuted at 19, and Smallfoot retained its position as the 20th movie. Just remember, if you're taking your kids to go see Smallfoot, you're taking them to see liberal propaganda, according to Melissa Radulich.
I believe your wife on this. If your wife of all people says this is just liberal propaganda, I'm like, it has to be so bad. Because that's not something I think your wife would ever say about something that.
No, she's really not looking for like political things in movies. So for her to have come up with that. So Venom continues to rise up the ranks. It has now beaten Ant-Man and the Wasp, Deadpool, and Mission Impossible, and is currently the number 5 movie of the year.
I'm not. I don't think it's better than any of those, and I didn't like 2 of those 3.
It hasn't quite hit $1 billion yet, but
it's gonna get close.
Yeah, it's
gonna get real close.
It's currently sitting at $822 million, and of course number.
It's gonna stay in Chinese theaters for another 8 months, and it'll get there.
Outside of that, not a whole lot of movement everywhere else. Again. Mission Impossible, Deadpool, Ant-Man, Ready Player One, Operation Red Sea, Detective China, and then we're into the 20s. Bohemian Rhapsody is doing really well. It's currently at $473 million. Fantastic Beasts at $440 million. And Solo continues to sink out of the top 20. It's currently at number 18. By the end of the year, it'll be out of the top 20. Aw,
most likely. We got a couple of other big ones still to come. Yeah.
Poor Lucasfilm.
Don't feel bad for them. They got bought out by Disney a few years ago.
All right.
They made $1 billion on. They made $2-3 billion between their last Star Wars movies proper, and they're going to make another $1 billion on whatever the next one is.
Moving on, I have a question for you, sir.
Oh
boy. Are you ready? I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God!
Robin Hood is one of those rare gems that not only is this thing like 17% rotten, but its audience score is like 51%.
Yeah, again, nobody liked it critically, and nobody liked it casually.
However, there are 18 critics who gave it, as far as the rubric on Rotten Tomatoes is concerned, a fresh review. And so here are some of these divine voices now.
We should not have these jobs. Like, if we can't agree on this, we can't agree on anything.
Katie Walsh, this idiot, of Tribune News Service, top critic. While it plays fast and loose with loaded political iconography, this Robin Hood has brought a whole new dimension to this age-old tale.
No, it hasn't. Literally robbing from the rich to give to the poor and fighting government and fighting like genuine tyranny is all that story has ever been. There's nothing new about this other than throwing around terrible contemporary buzzwords, dressing characters to be anachronistic in the sense that they clearly want to evoke contemporary body armor and police officers, but can't actually do that because, hey, Middle Ages. No, it doesn't. There's nothing good about this movie. You should feel badly about your review.
Kevin Marr of the Times UK. It's all tongue-in-cheek nonsense, but executed with flair and verve.
No!
By debut feature director Otto Bathurst.
Okay, no, this is not tongue-in-cheek. That would have made this movie palatable if there was a wink and a nod to the camera. Like, if they actually acknowledged how terrible this is and approached it from that perspective, you might have gotten something that was better. There's no style to this either. It's like bleached out. It's the same bleached out action scenes we've seen from like every one of these same school of directors. It's not. Again, all the action scenes are shot in the same style with essentially the same thing. I'm a guy who enjoys, as Mark says, some kung fu fighting. You got to do something different with it after the first time you see it, or it just becomes the same. This movie doesn't do anything different. It's just the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Matthew Bond of the Mail on Sunday, UK. I ended up really enjoying it. And looking forward to the sequel. We are clearly being prepared for Sherwood Forest and all.
Get used to disappointment.
Stephen Romay of The Australian. In the end, this is an overacted, overstyled comedy, and therefore quite enjoyable. The action scenes are Wait, this gets better. The action scenes are spectacular.
No, they're not. They're pedantic and repetitive and derivative. Again, I'd rather watch Batman fight off a horde of goons than watch this version of Robin Hood magically find chinks in armor even when shooting them in the center of the plate. More importantly, it's not intended to be a comedy. I wish it were. That would genuinely make this movie better.
You know it's bad when people are using my argument for Catwoman.
Which was not a valid argument. Catwoman is terrible.
All right.
But, the point there is, no, it's not a tongue-in-cheek comedy. They treat this material seriously. I wish they'd treated it with humor. It might have actually been better if we all get a laugh, an intentional laugh, when Robin Hood says, "Who's up for some redistribution of wealth?" Because that's a stupid, stupid line. To say that it's overacted, did you actually watch the damn movie? Taron Egerton's face twitches a couple of times. They don't even let the sheriff actually chew scenery.
No, for that, see Alan Rickman.
Bear in mind, best part about that movie is Alan Rickman.
Oh, by a country mile. Jim Shembry.
And a handful of, as far as Prince of Thieves, it's Alan Rickman and his spectacular scene chewing, and a couple of the action scenes. Like, I love the Battle of Sherwood Forest when they all get routed and their homes burned down. It's a well shot, well executed action piece. And then the final bit where they storm the castle and rescue everyone. Like, there's some really good action sequences in that movie too, but mostly it's Alan Rickman.
Jim Shembry of JimShembry.com.
Self-employed jackass.
The latest stab at one of England's favorite folk heroes is a deliciously punked out, hyped up, supercharged action flick. Hook into the crazy swing of the film, and you're in for a sweet ride. You, sir, work for the studio.
Yeah, that like you have to have been paid for that.
That's someone begging to be included for a screening.
Give me my press pass. Give me early release screenings. Look at how much I kiss your ass. No, you have no integrity, sir. None.
Michelle Alexandria of Eclipse Magazine. Robin Hood doesn't strive to be anything more than it is. A nice little popcorn movie that you don't have to take seriously and serves as a distraction to life's outside worries. On that level, it largely succeeds.
Your argument in favor of this being a good movie is that it's a way to kill time. That's the sum total of your positive review. Get Out.
I could not disagree with this next one more. Like, I'm not entirely sure we watched the same movie. He may have written this before he actually saw the movie. Aaron Peterson of The Hollywood Outsider. Though in need of a stronger villain, Robin Hood is a rollicking good time with a blast of a cast in tow. Taron Egerton has plenty of swash in his buckle. And Jamie Foxx brings the audience to life.
No. Taron Egerton does not actually swashbuckle at any point in this movie. He flops around shooting arrows. There's not a legitimate sword fight in this entire movie.
No, he's a ninja.
It's not a swashbuckling style movie then.
Yeah, no.
You moron. Your terminology is wrong. Second, how does Jamie Foxx bring the audience to life? I mean, by what definition? He shows up, he reads his lines, he hits his marks. That brings the audience to life? No. He gets to stare heatedly and mutter a few phrases in Arabic.
Jacob Knight of Birth.Movies.Death. Bathurst and Co. have created one of the better pure popcorn movies of the year, and that's a pretty impressive feat for a movie nobody really wanted in the first place.
It's not. If you want to... Okay, don't make me bring up the list of movies from this year and find 18 better popcorn movies than this. Because I will if you make me.
Solo was a better popcorn movie than this. I know nobody saw
it. Was.
I know hardly anyone saw it, and and it's a flop for Disney. But like I bought it on digital, and I'm a Lucasfilm fan, so whatever. But again, I enjoyed that. I mean, it was a train robbery in space. Cool.
Hang on, no, now I have to do it. Give me just a minute to bring up the old list here. Okay, we are limiting this discussion to popcorn movies, which is a loose definition of things that aren't to be taken all that seriously, and you just kind of watch to have fun with.
The Predator.
Is that a fair definition?
Yes. Number one on that list, The Predator.
Shut up. However, that is correct. It's a better popcorn movie than this, and that was a terrible movie. Deadpool 2, better popcorn movie. Solo, better popcorn movie. You know what? I'll say it. Action Point, where all you do is watch Johnny Knoxville get hit in the crotch over and over again. Better popcorn movie. We will not count Incredibles, Tag, Jurassic World, and we'll set aside Jurassic World, even though I would argue that the entire Jurassic Park franchise is built on nothing but really, really great popcorn movies. I'll set that aside for the sake of fairness. Let's see. Skyscraper, better popcorn movie in every way, and that was a mess as well. Mission Impossible Fallout, another pretty terrible movie, better popcorn movie. The Meg, infinitely better popcorn movie. I've heard Alpha qualifies. I haven't seen Alpha yet. The Predator, we already talked about. No. Okay, I'll say it. Venom. Venom is nothing but a popcorn movie. A really, really bad popcorn movie that's still better than this.
All right, moving on. Molly Freeman of Screen Rant. Robin Hood modernizes the classic story with some new ideas that don't always work, but the tale of an outlaw hero is buoyed by Taron Egerton's charm. If by charm you mean his hair, sure.
Yeah, I don't get... in fairness to the following point, I have not seen the Kingsman movies. I don't get why Taron Egerton is a thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm sure girls find him cute.
I mean, sure, but... God.
Edward Douglas...
the ability to be physically attractive and photogenic does not equal charm. Charm is the way a character comes to life, the way a character interacts with the crowd and the audience and the way they interact with him. There is a significant difference between charm and physical attractiveness. Jason Momoa is a physically attractive man with not an ounce of screen charm. Yet he's going to be Aquaman.
And apparently in a bizarre and outstanding and wonderful Wizard of Oz-esque movie, from what I'm
Can I say legitimately, when I saw that you post that, it's wacky, it's out there, and it's Marvel-esque. None of that actually gives me any hope for the movie. It's Marvel-esque. You mean full of bad jokes with no emotional core, as several of the last Marvel movies have been?
Like I said, honestly, I'm sure at this point anything that isn't a dour Superman v Batman is, what they were aiming for. Edward Douglas, The Weekend Warrior. I expect many of the film's worst reviews to come from critics disappointed that Robin Hood isn't the laughingly bad disaster so many were expecting. It
really is. I mean, it really is a horrible disaster of a movie.
In defense of this guy's critique, I wish it had been laughingly bad. Like, I wish I was entertained while watching it.
That's true. I mean, again, I wish I didn't want to walk out of the movie at various points and instead could just laugh at how stupid it was. But
yeah.
If it's a comedy, it's the least successful comedy I've ever seen.
Like, here's the thing. Jason Statham jumping out of the water and stabbing a giant shark in the eye. See, that's fun. It's stupid, but it's fun. And it makes you cheer at the screen, and and we're all having fun watching a silly thing. There's nothing like that in this movie.
Not even close.
Catalina Combs of Black Girl Nerds. It's not mind-blowing, but it is fun. Ugh. They gave this gal a spot on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you have to actually earn a spot on Rotten Tomatoes. You have to go through a rigmarole to get posted on here. This girl made it, and I can't get on Rotten Tomatoes. What the fuck?
Mark, you're a white man. She's a black woman.
Good point. Mike Reyes of Cinema Blend.
I wish I was joking about that probably being part of the criteria. I wish I was, but Mark, not only are you white and a man, you have a Jewish last name. So unless a white nationalist tries to kill you, no one cares about the anti-Semitism that gets thrown your way.
Mike Reyes of Cinema Blend. Robin Hood does feel very much a product of its time, with fun performances and kinetic action thrown into the mix. It feels as if it had to crib from another landmark franchise to do so.
You mean how it blatantly ripped off everything about it from other movies? Again, I can't stress this enough. There's a significant difference between being inspired by other stuff, everything takes inspiration from something else, and straight up, flat out, ripping off the soundtrack from another movie. I defy you to listen to the music of, again, the entire heist sequence where they steal the armored carriage, then go listen to the Joker's basic theme from The Dark Knight. You cannot tell the difference. Unless they paid Hans Zimmer twice for that piece of music, you just plagiarized it.
All right, our last one, and then we'll get out of here. Owen Gleiberman of Variety. Robin Hood is no classic. But if it sometimes seems like it's trying to be Baz Luhrmann's Robin Hood, more power to it. Mm-hmm.
How is that a good thing? How is that more power to it?
People apparently liked Baz Luhrmann's take on things.
Which I don't understand at all, but alright, fine. No. If that's the only thing you can say about this, loosely in this thing's favor, is, well, it tries to ape another style. No. That's not a good thing. Shut up.
And that, of course, is the end of our show. Next week is Creed. Robert has the week off.
I will not do it.
I will be joined by Ronnie Adams and Jason Teasley, however, and then Robert has the next week off after that because we'll be doing Jingle All the Way. Actually, you don't.
Have you never seen that?
No.
Have you still not seen that?
Nope. So actually, you have 3 weeks off in a row. By the way.
Again, this is Jingle All the Way is stupid and terrible in many respects. But it's the best movie you will ever see where Arnold Schwarzenegger punches a reindeer.
I believe you.
And it is probably the best movie Jake Lloyd's ever been involved in.
Okay. So anyway.
And it's probably the best thing Sinbad ever did.
So like I said, Robert has the next 3 weeks off. We'll be doing Creed 2. We'll be doing
You're going to do like triple our normal listenership because I'm not here. I know you're going to... You're just going to phase me out. I know what you're doing.
Jingle All the Way, and then Pat Mullen will be joining me for the Elseworlds TV party tonight, which is the Arrowverse crossover for the year. We'll be back the day after Christmas, which is December 26th, for Aquaman, and then January 1st, New Year's Day.
That's just a terrible way to come off of Christmas.
That's okay. New Year's Day, the January 1st. We're beginning 2019 with our review of Bumblebee.
That is you know what? No, I'm not going to be positive about this. I am taking that as an omen. I am absolutely taking that as a sign about just what a dog shit year 2019 is going to be. The literal first day of the year, we have to talk about Bumblebee.
Yep.
Piss off.
And then I think in January after that, you actually get a reprieve until Glass. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing in January. Like the 2 movies that were to come out in January that we were looking forward to, like Hellboy, and I think there was one other one, as well as Glass, got moved.
Yeah, everything moved out of January. So
I mean, I was looking forward to the Hellboy reboot.
Yep, I'll have to wait a few more months. So that's what's going on for Dan U Hollywood. As far as everything else, as I said, this week is Robin Hood week. So tomorrow we'll be looking at the new POD album on Metal Hammer of Doom. And then on Thursday, the aforementioned Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. We'll be doing an on-trial for I'm Defending, Sean's Prosecuting. December 1st is Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury on Showtime pay-per-view. Myself and Pat Mullen, possibly Gavin Napier, will be doing live commentary.
I can't believe you got Pat to do another thing related to boxing after the travesty of
I know.
Golovkin versus Canelo 2.
Yep. He likes me, and he likes recording with me. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason why he's doing it.
That's fair.
Monday the 3rd of December is Superman versus Muhammad Ali, the aforementioned Creed 2 review, our review of Rocky IV soundtrack on the Metal Hammer of Doom.
That is the best soundtrack of any Rocky
movie.
Dude,
my son is in love with that soundtrack. We get in the car now. He's just all he wants to hear is Burning Heart. Sorry,
yeah,
not Burning Heart. Not Burning Heart. Hearts on Fire. That's he was like play. He always says play the montage where he works out with his family. I'm like, okay, that's Hearts on Fire.
It's a genuinely great soundtrack.
Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. And then we'll be doing an on trial.
Bear in mind, great for its time. As far as like quintessentially great '80s soundtracks go, Rocky IV is absolutely near the top of that list. If not,
it doesn't get much better than that. Then we'll be doing an on trial for Rocky IV. The week following that, we've got the Harley Quinn holiday special. We have an on trial for Jingle All the Way. We'll have a Metal Hammer of Doom for the new Metal Church album. And then a bunch of us nerds are getting together to talk about Castlevania Seasons 1 and 2. The following week, we'll be looking
at... Pretty solid anime.
We'll be looking at Batwoman Elegy, which is from Detective Comics. Elseworlds. Our Christmas album on the Metal Hammer of Doom this year is Tarja from Spirits and Ghosts, a score for Dark Christmas. And then that's it for that week. The following week is Aquaman Volume 2 from the New 52. The Others, we'll be off on Tuesday because that's Christmas Day, and we don't work on Christmas Day here. Then we'll be doing our Damn You Hollywood review of Aquaman on the 26th. And that's it for that week. And then we start off the year with these...
So, wait. Just so everyone understands what Mark has just said. I want you all to take a moment to digest this fact. The day after Christmas, we're talking about Aquaman. And the first day of 2019, we're talking about Bumblebee. Let that just marinate for a moment and all the terrible, horrible implications that it brings with it.
New Year's week, we got the Transformers Bumblebee movie prequel comic. We'll be talking about on New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, Damn You Hollywood Bumblebee. And then the Metal Hammer of Doom's year-end special will actually be January 2nd. And then on January 3rd, Alexis Haino will be joining me to talk about the new She-Ra cartoon on Netflix for a TV party tonight. So that's it. That's everything in December. Go ahead and do your plug, sir, so I can take NyQuil and go to bed.
All right. This Friday, I will be covering the Ultimate Fighter Season 28 finale. Yes, it's still going on. No one knows why. I genuinely don't know why that thing is still on the air. There has to be some minuscule cost to benefit ratio that they're still on the proper side of it. I don't get it. But I will be covering that event, and I said this before, I will say this again. Of all the events the UFC does, Fight Pass exclusive, FS1 cards, Foxx cards, pay-per-view cards, I hate tough finales more than any of them. These are the worst events of the year. They are horrible. They are full of terrible fights. These are the worst paced events that the UFC does. Are these events where we finish a fight, we take a commercial break, we get a 3-minute hype piece for the next fight, we take a commercial break, we come back to the intros, to the fight, and then repeat that for at least 2 fights. It is just the dirt worst. But I'll be covering it Friday, not doing what I want to be doing a Friday evening, because I make the big bucks, man.
What do you want to be doing Friday? What are you giving up?
There's actually a... God, this is so nerdy. There's a... basically a dungeon... It's not actually Dungeons & Dragons as a system, but there's a RPG, tabletop RPG stream on Twitch that I've been following since it started earlier this year that's having their finale episode on Friday that I'm not going to be able to see live.
Oh, okay.
And I'm genuinely a little pissed that I'm going to miss the finale of Identity Crisis live. Again, it's stupid and it's purely personal, but hey, it's my plug, and if I want to bitch about this, I'm going to.
I'd help you out.
Saturday, I will be covering UFC Fight Night 142.
I'd help you out, except that I'm going to go see Creed 2, so you're on your own.
You know what?
Fuck you.
A, I would absolutely take you up on that offer. B, I would laugh as you had to suffer through the pacing of this show.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've had to cover those in years past, and it just feels like the event is 8 hours long because of all the starting and stopping.
It's usually 6.5.
It's awful.
Yeah, and again, not to pull out the I've suffered more than you card. Those tough events have gotten worse since you stopped doing this.
Yeah. In all honesty, if I wasn't legitimately going out to the movies on Friday, I would do it just to help you out and give you the night off. And what the hell? What am I doing on a Friday night? On the other hand, I'd rather go see Creed 2. On the other hand, I'd rather hit myself in the hand with a hammer.
Yeah, I would have rather dropped a phone book on my balls than go see Robin. Okay. I mean, I wasn't joking when I said I would take a round of chemo over this movie last week.
I'll tell you, chemo when you're receiving it's not bad. Like, especially if you've got Wi-Fi, and a decent smartphone. I mean, I caught up on a lot. I watched an entire season of Glow during one chemo session. Getting the actual chemo is not bad, and for the first 3 days, you really don't feel bad. Like I always felt like a new man after I got chemo. Like for the first 3 or 4 days, maybe even the first week, I was like tip top, man. I felt like I could take on the world. It's the few days after that where it really starts to kick in that your body just goes to crap, and your bones feel like they're 100 pounds. And you're just, the air feels like Jell-O, and all you want to do is sleep.
Yeah, would have taken that over this movie.
Okay.
Anyway, to finish my plug, Saturday I'm covering UFC Fight Night 142, so Friday and Saturday back-to-back days. Yay! Again, big bucks for me. I will be covering, and that is the UFC returning to Australia. They're in Adelaide. They brought a card that has 2 heavyweight fights and 2 light heavyweight fights on it, and I want to throw stuff. The main event is Junior Dos Santos versus Tai Tuivasa. You also have Mark Hunt in his final UFC fight taking on Justin Willis. The sad, sad story of Shogun continues as he takes on Tyson Pedro.
Has he won a fight recently?
Shogun?
Yeah.
Relatively. He beat John Vellante not too long ago.
Who hasn't beat John Vellante? Long Island strong, baby.
I look at John Vellante and I go, how are you not wearing a helmet?
Well, in fairness, that's what they say to most Long Island people.
I don't say that about anyone. Like, I look at John Vellante and I hear him talk and I go, where is your helmet, sir?
Yeah,
and why aren't you wearing it?
That sounds about right. Hurry up. I've already taken my NyQuil.
Anyway, all right. So there's...
I could start hallucinating at any moment.
Well, that'll be fun. Anyway, so there is, again, I will be covering that. There's a full preview of both of those events. There was one this past Sunday on the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We also looked back at UFC Fight Night 141. The UFC was in Beijing, China for that. Francis Ngannou done knocked out Curtis Blades. Alistair Overeem knocked out, I don't want to say a can, because I actually am a little familiar with the guy he beat outside of the UFC, and he's pretty good, but this was also kind of a... It was either a we get to hype the next big thing because he knocked out Overeem, or Overeem gets back on track, and Overeem got back on track. Other than that, it was a bunch of the usual suspects from their East Asian cards or when they go to Oceania. But you can look at all of that. There's also a few sad, sad thoughts on the sad, sad fight, and I use the air quotes around that, because while legit, I don't think it was fixed, I can't really call it a fight, between Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell that took place Saturday.
It was a first round KO, wasn't it?
Yep. Tito knocked him out on the feet. Chuck Liddell goes down smoother than Conor McGregor's whiskey, man. I wish I had thought of that originally, but I'm pretty sure I just paraphrased Chael Sonnen. Seriously, though, I have not seen a really good review for Conor's whiskey either. I mean, I don't drink, so it's not relevant to me, but it amuses me. So this coming Sunday, we'll have a review of both of those shows and a preview of Fight Night 143? No, UFC 231. Thank heavens. Holloway versus Ortega, baby. I'm genuinely being sustained by UFC 231 and UFC 232. Because those are some great cards. And 231 has 2 title fights, one of which is, I think, one of the best fights in all of MMA. Again, Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. And then you also have maybe the best women's fight you can make between Valentina Shevchenko and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So,
oh, your wife's fighting?
A, she's not my wife. Neither of them are, actually.
You want to be her boyfriend. Ooh,
Not especially.
You
I
want
mean, there's too much. I don't think we could get over the language barrier, and then there's the religious differences. I just don't think it would work out.
But you both speak the universal language of love. Why am I
Love is
dragging
not
this out? I
universal.
just want to go to bed. Continue.
You're the one who interrupted me. For your
I
stupid
know. I know. I'm dumb.
So anyway, this coming Sunday, you can have again a double review and a preview of 231, which I will cover in 2 weeks. Just most Sundays, there's an episode of the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. Follow the Radulich Broadcasting Network on Facebook to stay up to date on all this stuff when Mark feels like posting. Or you can follow him on Twitter and harass him there.
Mark Radulich. At Mark Radulich.
Which is always a good time.
Yeah, look,
don't follow me.
You could either follow me or you could follow Becky Lynch, who suddenly has become the most annoying person on Twitter.
Second most annoying person on Twitter.
Really? There's somebody more annoying than this broad who got punched in the face once and now thinks she's Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Okay, well, technically there are 3 more annoying people on Twitter than her.
Okay, who?
Donald Trump.
Nah.
This is just annoying.
Okay.
Donald Trump, Louis Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan's on Twitter, actively tweets?
Yes.
Why am I not
Uses
following
the
him?
platform to routinely call the Jews termites, yet somehow he's not banned.
Why am I not following Louis Farrakhan on Twitter? Well, I will correct that tonight.
Do not, no. Do not inflate, don't. Okay, for those of you unaware who Louis Farrakhan is.
No. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even... Who's the third person?
Crap, you derailed my train of thought. I had someone. I genuinely had someone.
Is it the test account?
We'll just say Becky's the third most annoying.
Is it the test account where occasionally he answers, yes, he's still dead?
No. That's funny. I mean, Test actually I believe that his Test Still Dead account actually last tweeted on April 1st, a couple of years ago, to say he is risen.
Are we done?
Yeah, we can be done. So, anyway, that's all of those things, and thank you all very much for that. Thank you for listening to this train wreck of a show.
2 hours. 2 hours on a show I wanted to be done with in 1 hour.
Hey, the ones we always think are going to be over fast, man. Every single time.
Every fucking time.
Thank you to everyone who will be filling in for me over the next couple of weeks as other stuff gets discussed. Share us with your friends if you think they'd be interested in the show. That's always appreciated. We are trying to grow this thing, people. We lost a fair number of listens when we switched from Blog Talk to Spreaker because Blog Talk as a platform just kind of sucked to deal with. So share us with your friends, please. That's much appreciated if you like what we do to support us. You can also donate to Mark. He has a PayPal set up. Do you? Actually, I'm making a joke, but I'm suddenly genuinely curious.
Oh, for the love of Christ, thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
Music powers my morning runs, but data overages slow me down.
Don't worry, you got this with the Total Wireless Store. Just bring your number and get 10 gigs of lightning-fast 4G LTE data with unlimited talk and text for $40 a month.
I'd run to the Total Wireless Store right now for that deal, if I wasn't already here.
Data girl.
Discover the Total Wireless stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Excludes TracFone Wireless Inc. brand sports. $40 plan must remain active to keep bonus data after 12/31/18. Terms at stores.totalwireless.com.